Amjad, thank you very much for being at Step, and welcome back to Step. The last time we had this was round one in Dubai, so this is round two.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So this is round two, and it's crazy how much has changed. Not for me, but for you. Since about 14 months ago, it's just absolutely wild that when I met you at that time, you were a single-digit ARR. And now you're at 150 million. What happened? Did you get good luck charms on your Middle East trip?
Yeah, we just prayed really hard and it happened. We spent 10 years building the platform. Our idea from the start has always been, how do you make it the easiest possible place to go from an idea to a software? Maybe you have an idea for a business. Maybe you have an idea for a personal tool, or a tool for work. It should be just the place you go, put in that idea, and you don't have to leave the platform to go all the way to a production software that you can scale. Now, the limiting factor was you still had to fight with code. You still had to learn a code if you don't know how to do it. You still have to deal with a lot of, I think, the artificial complexity that comes with code. So in mid-24, maybe a few months after I met you, we had grown the company quite a bit, but the business wasn't doing well. And you see this start of the chart as 2 million ARR. It had been 2 million ARR for perhaps a year, and that was very difficult moment for the company.
This was leaked by VC. Very embarrassing to leak this. Look at that.
Are you here? I just have to chat with you. But thank you. We ended up having to do a layoff, unfortunately, because we had grown the company a lot. And Replit Agent was sort of a Hail Mary project to save the company. So I put together a task force. We stopped doing anything else. And I said that everyone needs to be working on making programming 10 times easier. If we can get away with having people not write code at all, we should do it. So we started working on it around maybe May or April, May. And we got a demo pretty quickly. And it was the first time I can see an agent that can go from a natural language, can create the environment, install packages, and write a file. But it couldn't go on for more than 30 seconds. So we're using GPT-4o at the time. So we built a lot of infrastructure around it, a lot of prompt engineering and context management, and we trained a RAG model, and we did a lot of engineering. But it was still not good. And it was the one thing about it that was hard is the thing that's been improving a lot lately, which is how long can an agent run for? And so in July 2024, we had a stroke of luck where Claude 3.5 came out. And it was the first sort of really agentic model. So it went from running for 30 seconds to be able to run for 2 minutes. And that was enough to actually make something useful. And so we had been working on it for many months. And after we did the layoff, people were leaving the company. Just, it was pretty bad. And so we had to launch. The product wasn't ready yet, but we set the date, September 5th, and we're just going to launch at that date. And so we had this crunch time. We went in a room much smaller than this, and we basically lived in it for 2 months. And we're doing the same right now. We're working on the third version of the agent, and everyone in the team is down in LA in a hotel, hunched over, solving a lot of problems, because we're also doing it again. In September, we're launching the third version of the agent. So the first launch, it went viral because it was the first agent in the market that you could try.
I remember that video very well. You say launching Replit Agent. What happened in the back? Did you know, do you expect it to go this viral? How much of it was that video and you doing it and your reach, and how much of it was your product itself, just getting word of mouth?
So quite a bit of it was the narrative before people tried the product. So what we said in the video is like, look, everyone knows that AI is good at coding, but we haven't seen an example where AI can set up a development environment, can provision a database, can deploy your code. And it was the first thing in the market that really behaved like an agent. So I remember one of the things that made the tweet go viral was Andrej Karpathy, the head of AI at Tesla, later on quit and started a startup. He said this is feel the AGI moment.
He invented the vibe coding, right?
He invented vibe coding, and he said that Replit Agent was giving people an idea of what AGI could do. And that was a huge moment for our AI team. Everyone was really excited. And then it started going viral from there. And then the product was still sort of in beta, so a lot of people were disappointed in it, but a lot of people got the idea that, okay, this could be really powerful. It wasn't until we launched out of beta in December, and then version 2 of the agent, and you see it in the graph, there's another inflection. Version 2 of the agent, you could actually make real software with it. It's still not easy, it requires a lot of grit, and can be a little frustrating, which is what we're solving right now with V3. But now suddenly we have people building real businesses. We have enterprises using it for their product development, for their internal tools. And so,
yeah, we've actually used it at Step. We've vibe coded 2 apps to replace subscriptions that we were paying for. One for matching investors with startups, another one for marketing. So we managed to do that. Are you seeing more of these cases from companies, mid-sized to larger companies, building their own internal tool, vibe coding their own internal tools?
My favorite examples tend to be from underserved markets. In Silicon Valley, I think there's a lot of great things about Silicon Valley, but one thing that might be perhaps an issue is that we build for each other a lot. That's why there's 1 trillion AI coding companies. That's why there's 1 trillion note-taking companies. And so the community here tend to be a bit of a bubble. But when I see a small family-owned hotel chain that was paying $300,000 a year for a time management system for their contractors to be able to clock in and clock out and have metrics around it, having someone in their HR department vibe code a replacement for $25, replace $300,000 of spend for the company. And that's the thing, you see it all over time, and probably in your case.
Yeah, we save 10K, not 300, but still good enough. It's 10K a year.
It's orders of magnitude savings, and maybe we should be making a little more money than that. But that's really inspiring.
And besides companies and enterprise, in terms of like founders and technical and non-technical founders building stuff, what has been what is the highest earning Replit app right now? Or one of the highest earning ones?
There are 2 come to mind. One, there's a CFO of a European VC that he was always dealing with the problem of having to manage a really large portfolio, and he had an idea of like how to build software around it. He couldn't get engineering resources because they're precious and they're always busy, and there wasn't really a product on the market that could fit his use case. So he started using Replit. And I remember talking to him midway. He was maybe 3 or 4 weeks in, and he got on the camera. And he's like, I haven't slept in 2 days, and he was so hyped up. And it was like, oh my God, I'm building this thing. It's like maybe you should take a break or relax or sleep. And so people feel empowered, and they can't stop. And so even before he quit his job, he was getting contracts for his software for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now he's at 5 million ARR euro.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's still by himself. He still hasn't hired anyone.
Single founder, non-engineer, finance background. Do you think that, just like from the top of your head, I know that, but do you think that at what time the cumulative MRR, ARR of companies or products built on Replit will surpass Replit's ARR? or is that the case already?
No, it's not the case. I would be very proud if it's the case. Bill Gates said the definition of a platform is where the cumulative value of the participants on the platform exceeds the value of the platform itself. And so, that's certainly a goal. I will say if you look at it in terms of like money saved or value created, it's definitely more. But in terms of pure ARR from entrepreneurship, we're not there yet.
Would be cool if there's like a dashboard where they can link Stripe accounts and then, it can show in some way.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to make Stripe integration first class citizen on Replit. So you'll be able to one-click integrate Stripe.
And what's like the craziest idea you've seen built on Replit?
I think that one of the coolest ones is someone built like an app for his running that connected to Strava and visualized not just the top-down view of his runs, but actually like a 3D view of the city and where he's gone. I don't know how he built it. He showed it to me at a conference. And there's a lot of these like really cool visualization, and people are building around more creative aspects of it. There's an artist that uses a lot of materials for his art. For example, for Replit, he built the logo of Replit made of shots. So you can like take one of the pixels, it's like a pixel logo, and like take a shot. And he says with a lot of his art, he needs to be very specific about the kind of material and how much he needs in order not to overspend or underspend on budget. And he built an app to help him coordinate his art. And
there's also some games I saw recently, like some games being built. Also, one thing I saw very recently, somebody asked for like a React Native to be added, and I saw like a few hours later on X, like you had it up already. Do you believe in that like short feedback loop is a big part of your presence on X, kind of listening to customers, listening to people that are using the product, and how do you deal with that? Like, what's that for you in terms of as the company grows, it becomes more difficult?
Part of the short feedback loop is we use Replit to build Replit. So the React Native environment, I built it on Replit, and we're actually in the middle of kind of a hack week right now down in Beach. So I just flew for this. I'll be flying back in an hour. But everyone was there. I was like, oh, let's try to make it happen. And so I prototyped something really quickly. Some of the engineers fixed some things, and I tweeted about it, and maybe we'll launch it in the next couple of weeks. Yes, I mean, as a CEO, what is your job? Your job is, partly strategy, running the company, but also having the vision and listening to customers. You can be the most visionary person in the world, but once your ideas get in touch with reality, it's a very different world. So you want to be grounded in reality. We built something great, I think, but you want to be out there talking to people, seeing what they're using it for, and solving their problems. Like the Stripe integration that we're working on, it's because people are having trouble integrating Stripe, and we need to just solve this problem. Similarly, domain linking.
The domain, that was really cool.
Yeah, domain linking. Non-technical folks would like spend a lot of time troubleshooting DNS. Anyone who's used DNS would know that that's a pain in the ass. So we built it so that right now you can buy the domain of Replit, link it in 60 seconds. We don't make money on the domain. It's just
that's what I love about Replit. I'm one of the users as well. I'm not non-technical, so actually the first app I've ever built in my life and deployed was on Replit. And big part of the reason why I couldn't...
Before Agent?
No, when Agent just launched. Yeah, when it just launched. And big part of the reason, I've played around with other no-code tools before, but a big part of the problem was like not being able, you need to know how to deploy, like understand how, to do that from A to Z. And then that's the one thing that Replit has done differently. And now that you've added all the domain and everything else with it, how many people here have used Replit or?
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's very cool.
So one of the things as a user, and maybe since we have a lot of people that use Replit, maybe there could be some good tips that you can share with folks. But one of the issues I face is that I go into this deep dive, I'm building, and then at some point I get stuck. Then I keep trying to like unstuck myself. Then I build something, I fix something, I break something else. So I end up in this like kind of loop. And there's some other stuff. And I know there's been some tips that I put out there, but is there any that you can share with me and with the audience that?
The first thing I'll say is that that's actually the programmer experience. Programming tend to be very frustrating because sometimes the project complexity gets to the point where you make one step forward, two steps backwards. So just realizing that this is part of the journey, it's still going to be frustrating and costly, and we're aware of that. But I would say, like, one thing I observe of customers sometimes, not all of them, is they don't really try to help the AI. They just say, like, fix it, fix it, fix it. And some of the videos we put out on YouTube and some of the tips we put out, we give you some tools in order to help the AI overcome some of these problems. Replit, unlike other like sort of no-code or vibe coding tools, actually gives you sort of behind the scenes logs, and you can open networking, you can look at the database. So I would say be a little more resourceful. You still don't have to be a programmer, but like, you know, sleuth around and try to find information, and then spend some time writing the prompt. I know as ChatGPT got smarter, for me, as ChatGPT got smarter, at least for me, I started becoming lazier. But you know, I will like type one sentence. But with Replit, I would recommend, you know, every prompt should be at least a paragraph in order to give it as much information and reduce the ambiguity. That being said, we're working on version 3 of the agent. Version 3 of the agent will overcome some of these problems by being able to see the results of its work. I can't reveal too much. It's coming in a few weeks. But it will be able to run for longer and overcome some of these issues.
Are you building the new release on a new stack, or are you using the same? Are you using Claude, or are you using on that, or is it?
Yeah, so we use a combination of models. I think any sufficiently advanced agent will use a combination of models. Claude is still the best sort of agentic backbone, but Gemini is actually very good as well. We use Gemini for like the code understanding agent, and so there's like a lot of sub agents. You know, we were one of the first startups to train a model. We're probably gonna have to go back to train models for specific sub. So a lot of even Claude Code and others, now they're all transitioning into like this more sub agent architecture, and different models will have different performance for those.
How do you feel about the like OpenAI just with the latest release? They now offer something similar to what you do on ChatGPT, and others are going to be introducing also coding. How do you feel about that one? And then how do you see like the long-term view of the market in terms of would they be able to capture a big market share out of that? Do they need to, or would people go to like more specific experiences like they are right now with Replit?
You know, we've always anticipated that. It's sort of that's the history of Silicon Valley. Like you build a platform, and then you look at your developers, and they're making money, and you're like, that revenue looks good. What if I took it? So, but the reason we built like this technical depth in the platform, whether it's, you know, the full development environment, the deployment, the databases, all of that, is because we think that this is what's going to be the most advantageous, especially for the kind of audience we're going for. And I think it will take multiple years to catch up with us just on those features. And also, I think Replit just, you know, we've had this vision the longest. We understand the problems that people face when they're trying to build applications, and they're entrepreneurs and really focused on the outcome as opposed to the art of programming. I think it's just a different mindset. So I'm not too worried. I'm actually excited that we lit a fire, and now the entire forest is on fire. So it's good. I think it's good that more and more people are joining this revolution.
How big do you think the market will be? Like we just talked about the example earlier of case of our example, we were paying 2 SaaS providers a monthly subscription, or the example you gave about the CFO or the other person that saved $300K. That money is going from that, I mean, maybe paying $25 or whatever, but how big is that market? Where is that money going to move from? So, and how big is the market you're in going to become?
SaaS is probably like $500 billion market or something like that. I don't think all of SaaS goes away, but I think a big portion of that will shift to our market. I think the software engineering market, I don't think that's going to go away, but I think a solid portion of it will shift to our market where you don't need to hire a software engineer. You can build it yourself. So this is about existing markets, and it's easier to think about it in terms of existing market. But what I just talked about is probably already $1 trillion market. But I think there's new value creation. That's what gets me really excited. There are entrepreneurs that otherwise wouldn't be entrepreneurs that are now coming online, and this is net new value. So I think it is going to be an active market creation.
How are enterprises using Replit today? Have you worked with some that? I think you mentioned something about how it was more product teams that were being impacted versus engineering teams.
Yeah. So we have both. About 25% of our customers in enterprise are engineers, and about 50% are design and product. But that's sort of the obvious stuff. Let me give you the less obvious stuff. Maybe 25% is in operations. So for example, Sears Home Services, it's a very old company, 100-year-old company, and they have the service where they send workers to fix homes. And they have a large, probably 50-person team that are running the operations for the workers. And they were using a hodgepodge of different SaaS tools. It wasn't working very well. They had a very old platform written in COBOL, which is probably also a 100-year-old language. And they weren't able to get engineering resources. So the head of operations there tried Replit and then started building AI tools to manage their operations. For example, they have an AI tool that helps workers plan their daily routes to maximize their income. And so this idea of supporting the operations of the businesses, I don't think it's a served market at all. And I think that's a potentially new market for us. And again, it's empowering because those people are massively underserved because people in Silicon Valley are not really thinking about these problems.
Amjad, you've come a long way from you moved to Silicon Valley from Jordan, and you worked at Facebook, at Meta for a while, and then when was Replit founded? Was it
2016?
2016. I want to show you. You did a master plan around that time. If you can put the slide with the master plan that was released. I remember that. Was this Elon inspired by any chance?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He wrote the Tesla master plan, which is, masterful. It lays out how they build the Roadster. That's a high-end product that'll create the revenue and create the scale economy to go down market and so on and so forth. And they did all of that. And the Model 3, I think, was the final achievement in that master plan. I think their new thing is autonomy. So in this one, Replit started by getting people to learn how to code. Actually, up until recently, that was a predominant use case up until maybe 2 years ago. And we grew the platform that way. We built a lot of the infrastructure. If you're learning how to code, you need to be using a very convenient tool, and that's what made us design a product that's super convenient. And then AI has always been part of the story, and building this infrastructure around. For example, Replit has a 1 terabyte massive cache for all the packages in the world. So this idea of an online, I call it network assisted IDE here. We achieved that. AI has become the center of what we're doing. And then the last part is about people building real applications and businesses. And that's just started happening about last year ago. About a year ago, people are building apps and businesses. So it's
that was Replit Agent. That's helped achieve the master plan in 10 years.
Yeah.
Did you kind of feel that you will do it in 10 years when you wrote that plan? What was the timeline on this master plan?
A year.
A year?
Yeah, I mean, it's classic programmer. It's when I actually had the first idea for Replit was back in 2009, and I thought it was going to take a month. And So I think being relentlessly optimistic is a good thing for entrepreneurs. And back to Elon, that's why you see he's always wrong on timelines. It's because he's really optimistic, and you end up pushing your team really hard. I think if I knew it was gonna take 10 years, I probably would have still did it, but I might have hesitated a little bit because, yeah, it wasn't easy.
Well, Elon has master plan 2 or 3 now. What's your master plan 2?
I haven't formulated it yet because we're in the thick of kind of scaling, but Replit Agent showed the potential of what agents could do. A lot of people are building like smaller agents, chatbots and things like that. But Replit Agent required this company in massive, millions of dollars of investment for us to build something like that. And now we can make it into a platform where other people can build agents. So a lot of what people would build with Replit that are apps can be agents. So if you visualize it, I am an operations manager at a big company. I have a certain workflow that I do every day, and maybe I'll build an app to kind of automate that and solve the problem. So building an app is often an intermediate step, not always. Consumer apps is being an exception. So why not go directly to problem solving? And I think that's what agents do. So you can imagine an HR agent that is able to do employee onboarding, which every company has of sufficient size has HR ops. That's all they do, onboarding and offboarding. And you can imagine agents feeling like teammates and being able to do domain-specific things. So we have a software agent, but our software agent could potentially build an HR agent, a sales agent, a marketing agent. So I think that from here, the long-term vision is to make it so that you can automate anything in your work, and it stops being about software. It starts being about problem solving.
That's very interesting. Wanted to ask you, I think there's been a lot of interesting kind of developments recently in software, and with Figma going public recently, there's more interest. It seems that more SaaS, more AI companies are going public. I know that happened very quickly, but now that you're at 150 million ARR and going strong, maybe you'll be at 300 million next year. Would you want to take Replit public at some point? Is that part of the plan? Since especially that you have a big community, like I feel like in many ways, Replit has like a very big community that would want to be like retail investors at some point potentially.
I went around earlier this year and asked founders and VCs and bankers, why are companies taking so long to go public? And no one had an answer. And I feel like it is just Silicon Valley dogma at this point. Maybe because there was like a few IPOs that didn't go well. Whatever it is, companies are not going public. And I think the tragedy about it is what you exactly said, is the everyday person doesn't have a way to participate in this massive wealth creation that is AI and the internet. So yeah, I think it aligns really well with our community. I'm kind of like a little bored of the VC circuit. It's like, we've done it like 4 or 5 times.
They're leaking your grass.
They're leaking our shit. I would like to graduate from this phase, to be honest. I don't know what it looks like. I think there's probably few more steps before that. But it would be really cool if anyone can buy our shares.
Yeah, I think in many ways, like you said, it's probably unfair for a lot of people that want to participate in that, and it's probably hurting like the general public in general. But I think definitely, I'm a big fan of Replit.
Make way more money, way more money than they should.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, to fund the ski trips and the summer vacations. I'm sure some of them work hard, but.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to have to be able to participate, especially with. I think there's a big community around Replit. It's a bit similar to Tesla. Like I had a lot of retail investors and big community that want to be part of the company and follow the company's success and be out there to defend the company in through thick and thin.
So we did a community round in 22, WeFunder. So already they're $5 million worth of shares at the time, which is probably now. whatever, 15, 20 million in appreciation. That was our community that bought shares.
I think we're nearing the end of time. Is there any advice you'd like to give to one, Replit builders, people building on Replit, and two, just founders in general? I mean, you've been through a roller coaster ride from growing the company, being under a lot of also heat for your opinions, for other matters. What is your advice to founders to, one, stick with their values and principles while they're building or going on this journey of building a company from one to maybe it takes 20, 30 years?
I will say that there are no rules. Like in Silicon Valley, a lot of people will tell you, this is what you have to do. We've seen during the pandemic that companies went remote and everyone will tell you, oh, you need to be in this hacker house and do all of that. And turns out you can still build a big company. We build a company in person because that's what I like. But you might be someone who doesn't want to live in Silicon Valley and want to build a remote company and have access to talent all over the world. That worked. So there really no rules. Just be yourself. Just do whatever true to yourself. Design your life whatever way you want to. You're going to have to work hard and make some sacrifices. But you don't have to be in Silicon Valley. You don't have to raise venture. Midjourney is an example of a company that made as much money as us, and they're probably still scaling without a single dollar of venture. And so try to think from the ground up. Try to build something that really fits your ideals and your values. And for the first time, I think there's a lot more acceptable ways to be or to speak or to hold yourself publicly or talk about your values. When I first started talking about what's happening in Gaza, a lot of people told me, oh, you're not going to be able to fundraise again, whatever. I was like, who gives a shit? Like, if I can't fundraise, I'll find some other way to build my business. But I think what's happening there is wrong. I'm going to talk about it. And the world is really big. If there are like pockets of capital that don't want to fund us, that's fine. There are other pockets of capital that can fund us. So yeah, just be true to yourself, and also being really resourceful. Like you can solve like a lot of problems with AI. You can, there's so many tools out there. So like don't have self-limiting beliefs. I don't know how to code. Actually, you know how to code. You know how to vibe code. You just go to Replit and put in your idea and see what happens. I don't know how to design. Actually, no, you know how to design. There are plenty of AI tools that can do that. I don't know how to market. Well, you can learn it. And so just being resourceful. For the first times, the tools are there and they're cheap, relatively cheap. And I think you could do it. So if you have an idea, I suggest you go for it.
Well, thank you for being true to yourself, and thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Amjad.